Oh, thumbs up. That's good. Hello. Here to talk about project sharing, working together, making your life easier in Unity. We've been working on this for a while. It was last December that I remember seeing a Reddit post by a guy that he just really wanted to work on a game with his friend. And he was like, how do I work on a game with my friend? And he got a lot of answers that were 500-word essays on here's how you use Git, here are the things you need to ignore, here are the things you need to include, here are the things you need to exclude, always do this, never do that. And he was like, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to make a game. I just want to work on my project and not have to manage all the things outside and around that. So that's what I want to help people with Collaborate. Since then, in 11 months, he's gone from one guy to a team of 7 in Taiwan, India, the US, and Ireland. And they've got a Kickstarter, Throne of Lies, that will be starting up in the next month or two. Collaborate has gone from being an alpha build that I shot to him through a Google Drive link to now an open beta with a lot of active users. My name is Arisa Scott. I'm a product manager for online services, and I'm going to show you a demo of some of our services and then give you a look at our roadmap and what's coming next. So with that, we'll switch over to our preview build and just make a new project to show you how easy it is to get started. How many of you have tried Collaborate? Any, some? Yay, hands. All right, well, so Collaborate's found in the services window. And this is, so I'm on a preview build. It's a custom preview build that'll be available in the next couple weeks. But the 5.5 beta has Collaborate available right now. So you can just download 5.5 beta and you'll find yourself with this handy little Collaborate tab and this handy Collaborate toolbar, which works a lot better when you're not on dodgy Wi-Fi. A lot better. Like I've never seen this. Oh, there we go. All right, so we've got Collaborate, flip it on with a switch, and it's turned on. Start. Just like that, my project is backed up. If I were a solo developer and I just wanted to go back and forth between like my laptop and my desktop, I would be done. But I'm not a solo developer. It's a lot more fun when you're working with someone else. So like from the Collaborate window, I can click the little people icon, and I'm going to invite Brian. Just type his email address in. And now, next time Brian opens up Unity, Brian's a developer on our team who's sitting in the front row right now, he'll be able to see this project. I'm going to switch to a slightly later version of this project, Tanks Demo, to show you what it looks like when you're on a kind of fuller fleshed out project. So we've got our scene loaded up, and with this, as Brian makes changes, he and I will be able to see things go back and forth. Like if Brian were to do something, make a change. Then I'll be able to see those changes happening really quickly, as it's really easy. So a little people icon appeared. This means that Brian has made a change, but he hasn't published that change yet. It's kind of work in view. This is part of the preview build. And like in our inspector window, if I click on my scene, I can see who's editing it. But he just published his change, so that disappeared. So I've got a change to pull down, which says make change. Now, I'm going to guess that Brian likes buildings, and so I'm going to change something else in the scene and just move these rocks around. One of the main pain points for a lot of people is working in the same scene. And a lot of times that can just be a huge headache, especially because if you're dealing with like YAML files, you get these long strings of like gobbledygook versus gobbledygook. With Collaborate, we have smart merge under the covers, so that as I update, as long as he and I change completely different objects, or if we change the same object in different ways, reload, then I'll get his change while holding on to my change without any conflicts, without any additional management or any extra headache. And then I can just move to rock, push my change, just like that, going back and forth in the same scene without having to yell angrily at him for messing everything up. This is using Smart Merge, which is also available to you if you're not using Collaborate. If you're using, say, Perforce or Git, then you can set it up as an external tool to merge these things together. But with Collaborate, it's integrated directly in, and you don't have to think about it. We'll merge your scenes and your prefabs and just make things kind of nicely come together when we can. When we run into conflicts, we do have kind of a simple choose mine, choose theirs, use external. And we're prototyping a visual diff tool right now because we know that's a pain point for a lot of people. So with this, we're looking at a lot of integration into the editor. Things like, well, we've got our toolbar up here. In this preview build, we've also added in a Collaborate menu. So you can just like right click. So if you only want to send up one file, right click, publish, and be like, just this, publish, to send off that change really quickly. However, if you make a change and you're like, I don't want that, in our history window, you can click go back to, bump, 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 and it'll fetch what was there before. I'll reload my scene. And now I can publish my changes anew. Things are better again. And you should probably write actually helpful, useful notes, but I don't think I'm going to keep this project along and like really carry it forward, honestly. So that's some of our integration in the editor. And another piece for us is also how we can fit better with different parts of Unity. So we're integrated really nicely with Cloud Build. How many of you guys have used Cloud Build or heard of it? Oh, yeah, fair number. So like Cloud Build is fantastic for if you want to be able to set up an automatic build process so that if you want to get your game to testers, to artists, to your mom, to whoever, and to just be like, set up Cloud Build. So we're just going to click Enable. And for this, looks like it was previously set up. We can just create a new build target, somewhere in here. And we can start new builds, and have those running. So this is what it looks like when you've got a couple of builds going off. And with that, you can have kind of super handy share links, which I find endlessly useful, because it's really nice that you can add people to your project, and they can just go to the developer dashboard to get these share links and be able to play the game so artists can see what the game looks like on their phone without you having to ship something off to them. You can also revoke links so that if you're doing a demo and you don't want people downloading your demo, you can pull that back, which is very important. So those are some of the, so this is 5.5, and we're working on 5.5 preview. Open beta is available right now for anyone to download. And we're also, on the services side of things, working on our performance reporting, which is now in 5.4. We added into the editor in our little services panel, which is another one of those flip a switch and it just works. So performance reporting for us right now is exception reporting. And so you can see your exceptions, you can sort by your operating systems, you can sort by your game version number. So hopefully you version and update that as you fix bugs on old versions. You can see your stack trace, figure out line numbers and where you're actually running into problems and having problems. This is available for like Plus and Pro users. We eventually want to offer something for kind of the personal users, but right now it's just Plus and Pro. And then you have like your timeline of when things are happening. You can kind of see the affected OS to diagnose how often problems are happening and which ones you want to prioritize. So with performance reporting, we're now working on iOS crash reporting. And we're trying to get into native crash reporting just to give you more information and make it much easier to debug your game. Like right now, it's sort of like, here's the thread of what's occurring. This is available in preview with a 5.4.2 build, and it will be shipping with 5.6. It's a quick overview. So performance reporting, we're looking to expand that out. As I said, right now with 5.4, we had in-editor integration. With 5.6 and with preview builds, we've got iOS native crash reporting, and we want more people using that and giving us some feedback. We've started working on Android native crash reporting, and then after that, we'll be doing OS X and then also Windows. So with Collaborate, you can download it right now. The 5.5 beta is out there for you to try out and start using, and open, no additional setup required, just flip a switch. And with that, we also have a preview build, which will be available in the next 2 weeks. That was the build I was demoing that needs a bit more testing and bug fixing. And with that, it's got ignore files, which is just a text file. So you can say if you want to host some of your art files and just have them locally, but ignore them, or editor extensions, whatever. And then the in progress for scenes and prefabs, which Brian was showing off with little icons. So you can see like, hey, get out of that scene, then the partial publish, and also a rollback. So those will be available in the next 2 weeks. After that, we're currently kind of investigating and working on adding and branching. So Collaborate has been focused on a very streamlined user. Like we've talked to a lot of Unity users that use like USB sticks and our Dropbox users. And so we wanted to help those people get onto a better kind of project backup. But we're realizing we need to kind of expand our feature set. But we want to do it in a way that is intuitive and doesn't, scare off artists or scare off people that don't want to have a headache to manage. We also have a prototype for command line access. So Collaborate under the covers is Git-ish. Unity's weird in a lot of ways, so we're not fully Git. So right now, we can't just be like, oh, here, have command line access, because our Git repository is actually just a bunch of pointer files. And we're uploading everything directly to S3. And there are a couple reasons. One is Git doesn't do well with large files. Another thing is that we bind our file and our meta files together, because whenever files and meta files fall out of sync, you can end up with a corrupted project and just be in kind of a world of pain. Closer editor integration is also important to us. Like with the right-click menu, we're going to be adding in some more features like that. And then we're starting to work on, we've got a prototype for visual diff, because like with our scenes and our prefabs, the most useful information is being able to see what's going on and being able to see those changes. So that was a pretty quick overview, probably too quick. Are there questions I can answer? Excellent. Is there microphone would probably be good. Burp, burp, burp. Oh. There? Nope. How about this one?
So I'm curious, you said that the actual data is stored up on S3. What is the security on that?
So right now we're encrypting on upload and download, but we're not encrypting at rest. And we do have plans to do more security. We're also locked down in the number of users internally that can access that information. And it is something we take seriously. But I would say if you're currently using a closet and are very on-prem only, we're not a good fit right now.
So if somebody had the S3 URL to a file up there, they would be able to download it. There's no security, user level security on that data coming from S3?
Do you have any? That's all secure. Yes.
Okay.
They will not be able to, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, this looks awesome. One thing you mentioned is the smart merge will work. This has smart merge under the hood.
Yep.
I personally have had my difficulties with smart merge. How can I get the same workflow where you just moved, let's say, a prefab or a game object, and then I can automatically merge with the existing tool set?
So with the existing tool set, that should be able to merge for you. If you're using it with a different setup, like Collaborate gets that without setup. But if you run into any specific problems around things not merging for you automatically, definitely file a bug and send it our way. We are actively bug fixing for Smart Merge, and we do want to make that tool a lot stronger. It has some edge cases just because there are a lot of things you can do in Unity, and we want to track all those down.
And what's the maximum size for repository here?
So we don't have a maximum size. We do, however, have, our pricing is set up so that if you're a Plus user, you get 5 gigs for free. Or if you're a personal user, 5 gigs. If you're a Plus user, you're getting 15 gigs. If you're a Pro user, you're getting 25. And then we're planning on selling storage packs. This is also if you're a bunch of Pro users working together, then that will stack.
Thanks.
Currently, we don't offer any exporting out of our system. that's something we've talked about doing. We might do it in the future, but there are no plans for that right now.
So one of the things that you mentioned, which probably caught my attention, was the visual diff. As someone that uses diff a lot,
Yep.
for me, that's because usually the way that I've been doing it for a while is a split of a bunch of really smaller scenes that then get combined into one group scene that has all of them together. So we can collaborate all of these things and then be independent from one user. But with visual diff, like what type of features would you actually offer? Like just like transform information, or like what if somebody breaks a prefab, and when can we expect to see those features?
So we don't have a timeline on those features because right now we're in the prototyping stage. The approach we're taking is to like just offer you the inspector of like, here's version A, here's version B, here's version C. So you have, say, a scene or a prefab, and like one piece of that has conflicts along all of these different, like along the x-axis, along different components, and so that you can pick and choose what pieces you want and kind of pull that into the main one.
So just component values.
Mm-hmm.
What about, say, like if somebody dropped an image and then the image was also used as a reference, like stuff like that, something that's a little bit less than just float values.
I mean, we'd probably have if the image is like tabbed in there, then we'd probably have it just listed by name as like this doesn't exist in this version of it. Would probably be the approach we'd take, but would have to depend on the use case.
Thanks.
Question about cross-platform, and if, assuming everybody is running the exact same version of Unity, can team members use Unity to collaborate if somebody's on a Mac and somebody else is on Windows, for example?
Yes, that is something we test, and that is a use case we definitely support as well as we can.
Okay. And how does that work? Like, let's say, for example, one of the things we want to do in maybe cloud build is an iOS build, but somebody on the team is working on a Windows machine. Can you still use cloud build for iOS then?
Yep. With like Cloud Build, you can set it up on the web, and so that's not necessarily tied to whether you're on a Mac or on a Windows machine. Other questions?
You briefly mentioned Perforce.
Yep.
So we're heavily entrenched in using Perforce, but this would be very helpful for the art team because collaborating on art assets is painful with multiple people working on the same thing. So I mean, do you have workflow recommendations for how to do that?
Sure. I mean, so the main thing, we have seen teams do this. We haven't thoroughly tested that because that's a lot to take on. Like the thing that we've seen teams do when they're trying to mix different solutions is use Collaborate as either their master or as kind of their main branch, and then make sure that they only have kind of Collaborate turned on when they're on that project. The other thing is sometimes people split multiple projects and then just kind of port things to the artists as they need to, depending.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Well,
you can try a mixed solution, but it does come with the risk of not being as thoroughly tested because it's not as
Sure.
There are a lot of possibilities.
Well, I mean, I know that they're going to insist that Perforce is our main tool, for submitting changes, but to do previous work and Collaborate would be very handy.
I know some teams also have used, that I've talked to, have used Collaborate for prototyping and then pulling things off into another source control as they get further along in development.
Okay.
But we are interested in hearing why you want to stick with Perforce and what features we can add to.
If I could, I'd get rid of Perforce, but that's not my decision.
Okay.
Kind of going along that line a little bit, do you drop any extraneous files in the project dealing with this? For example, SVN is probably one of the worst, where it has SVN directories all throughout the tree. Git has its own little directory structure over there. So are you doing anything like that, or are you keeping this all out of the project directory?
So in your library folder, you'll have a Collaborate section. You'll have there's a collab ignore text file. So we're very slight things, but not
So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
If you have to blow away your library file for
Yep.
some reason, all this can be rebuilt?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's like, in earlier buggier builds, we've used that as a troubleshooting step.
So just a comment on Perforce integration. One of the ways you could use this is you could have your team collaborating together and then have like one machine that is specifically for taking a current state and checking it into Perforce.
Are there any other questions I can answer?
Yeah, sure, I've got another question.
Yep.
So one of the biggest kind of like hammers that I see up here is that somebody's working on one scene.
Yep.
And you see that they're liking up there, but yet at the same time, you also mentioned that you've got a Git add-on.
I'll be a little redundant. So one of the things that I saw you mention up here, which I saw was one of the most like killer apps, one of the biggest features, was the little icon that says that somebody's working on the same scene, and probably the merging of different scenes has been the biggest pain point of just using regular Git. But you also mentioned that you've got a Git add-on, so you don't.
No, we don't. I was just mentioning that under the covers, we're like parts of us are Git, but we're kind of extracted from that was all I was saying.
Okay.
Yeah, like on the server side, not on the editor side.
Okay, got it. So say this would be like aside from just like me alt tabbing, like like git add, then
Yep.
git commit, git push, origin master. Then besides of that, this would be like the biggest feature that you actually offer, that somebody's working on this specific file, on this specific scene, right?
Right now, that's, I'd say, one of the biggest features we're offering. Like we're looking to, like with the cloud build integration and with better kind of editor integration, and with kind of like visual merge. We've also talked about doing things like adding in commenting, so we want to expand the number of things that will just make it easier for people to work together.
Can you do individual commenting? Like say if you look at a scene, you can look at the history of that specific scene rather than just a general commit?
So right now on the web, you can look at the specific history of the scene. We don't have an in-editor version of that, and we're going to
Okay.
be working on that, though.
Cool.
So what about, sorry. What about generated files like, I'm looking at you, light maps, so that maybe everybody on the team doesn't have to do the same 6.5-hour light bake that I'm doing right now. So are those, like if they update their copy of the scene, do they get my copy of light map?
So right now, we don't have a solution for that just because light maps are a bit messy, but that is on our roadmap to figure out how we can tackle that problem because it is a huge pain point. So we're not there yet. We want to be there, though. In the back.
By the way, this looks awesome.
Thank you.
Any plans for external control support like TFS?
Sorry?
Do you guys have any plans for external source control support, like integration with TFS?
No plans yet. We've talked about doing things with like Perforce. TFS would probably be lower on our list, though. But we'd like to hear what you're using TFS for. If you have a chance to swing by our booth and talk to us about it, that'd be great. Any other questions I can answer? Boop.
Oh, really?
Thank you. You're great.
So if, like, your team is working on 5.5 and you're all free Unity users, can someone who just, one person on the team switches to 5.6 and a pro Unity user, can they still collaborate with each other? Or
So they would all want to be on the same version of Unity. Otherwise, like, you can do it. It is strongly not recommended, though, and like your assets will get rebuilt every time you open up the editor, and you'll like probably run into a crazy amount of conflicts.
is that with 5.5 to 5.6, or is that with free and pro version?
Oh, that's just with like 5.5. That's with
Got it.
going off of different versions of Unity.
Perfect.
You can have pro users and free users. Like, doesn't matter.
Fantastic, thank you.
You may have already covered this, and I may have just missed it, but when the two of y'all were working together and you were making a change and doing a commit, is there any kind of log that's generated that we can kind of saved to know what to include in our revision history?
So, like right now we have a simple revision history that just shows you all the assets that were changed, and like when you make a change on something, doop, you can write your comments up in here so that you have kind of notes yourself and you're able to see everything that you've modified as well. There isn't like a deep level of what specifically changed yet though, and we would like to add that.
But I mean,
So this is like the collab history that shows you all the assets that have changed, who changed them, and when they changed them.
but is there a way to get that out to a text file or something?
Yeah, I mean, there's like, so on our developer dashboard, actually, we have collaborate. So on our developer dashboard, we have a timeline available, which is just a bunch of text of different things. We don't have like an export out. We definitely could consider adding a feature like that, though.
I'm just curious if in your feature set you can lock check-in, check-out asset files.
So no locks. We've talked about doing something like that, but Unity as a whole doesn't deal that well with locking of files. You can run into just a lot of, like, Unity as a system likes to be able to mess around with things a lot. And so that's kind of why we went this route of just informing users of who's doing what and hoping that you can communicate and build goodwill there with your teammates on who's messing with what.
One of the other questions I have is when you integrating with Cloud Build, the manifest file that's generated, is that committed to the repository? Is that versioning tracked? Like, can I tag a repository and say, this was version X, and I can go back to that and bring it back and build a build off of it?
So right now we don't have tagging of different versions of Collaborate. Like through your commenting you could, and through like Cloud Build you can see which version of things are being built out. But we could, like adding kind of better tagging and commenting between those two is definitely something we would consider doing.
Yeah, it's really good for when you're finding bugs out of the field. They have a version associated with them, but you need to go back.
Okay.
You know, pull back out of the repository that state of the system, try to repo the bug, that kind of thing. So forensics, it's really useful.
I don't think he has a question. I think he just wants you to run to the opposite side.
This is a new game.
Yep.
So what about like access privileges? If you're the project owner,
Yep.
is there a way to restrict project access? I'm thinking of a couple of use cases for this. One being, a teaching environment. Let's say I was you teaching people how to do something at Unity. I've got my demo project. Okay, all you guys can pull this in on your laptop, but you can't commit back to my repository. So in a classroom type situation, but also for that case that somebody else asked about of we're going to test 5.6, but everybody else is on 5.5.
Sure.
Can I have a machine that goes in, gets access to my project, but that machine, just to prevent that version compatibility issue, that machine for now can't check back in?
So we don't currently have that functionality. That is something that we've talked about and are interested in adding, especially for the education use case. I would say for like restricting of projects, one of the other things that we do offer is if you have like an organization, you can add students to like specific projects so that they can kind of work in silo without having access to each other's stuff.
Right. I'm also thinking of cases too where you have people with different levels of skill in different areas of Unity.
Yep.
Allowing, say, somebody who is primarily a 3D modeler and an animator to be able to commit only in certain folders in the project view that contain those assets, but they can't mess up the script folder, for example.
Cool. Thank you for the feedback, and we're at time, so thank you guys. Thank you.